Ladies and gentlemen, thrilled to have on the Louis B. Free radio show, Brain Food from the Heartland, Joe Yogerst. Joe, we've got links up to JoeYogerst.com and NetGeo, et cetera, and more. Joe, good morning. Delighted to
Good
have
morning, Louis. How you doing?
wacky, as you just witnessed, as usual. I'm delighted. I'm doing well. I'm delighted to have you. I love this book, 100 Cities, 5,000 Ideas, Where to Go, When to Go, What to See, and What to Do. First, let's talk a little bit about you, if we will. Tell us a bit about yourself.
I grew up on the north side of San Diego in one of those little beach towns, and I've always had a hankering to travel. My parents used to do the summer road trips across the western US and Western Canada, and I just kind of continued in my college days as a backpacker or with my old Dodge Dart and Fort Pinto roaming around the West.
Wow,
And
that takes me back.
and then it just everything kind of links in life. My backpacking trip to Europe, I met this British journalist who was on her way overland to Singapore to take a job there. And I thought, that's my next trip. So I went back to school, saved up my money for 2 years, and I did a trip from Kathmandu to Istanbul.
Wow.
And and I met someone on that trip who inspired me to try to do the same thing in Africa. So at the age of 26, I spent a year in Africa going overland from basically Johannesburg to Cairo. Um, and after that, I tried to figure out a way how I could earn a living doing it. so so I was already a writer. My two interests were writing and travel, and I was able to combine them both. First as a newspaper reporter and editor, and then as a magazine editor, and then as a freelance writer. And about 20 years ago, I got my first assignment from National Geographic, and that was the first of somewhere between 40 and 50 books that I've worked on now
Wow.
for Nat Geo. And along the way, managed to accumulate, I think it's around 160 countries and territories around the world, something like that.
Wow. Wow. I obviously you found a way to work out the economics and the travel together.
I was pretty stubborn.
Yeah, well, you did, and it's wonderful. And the result is you get to share all this information with all of us, and that's a beautiful thing about it. I love that, and I love the new book. Traveling today, but if we could talk a little bit about it. I know things everybody wants to refer to, as do I, about travel, the pandemic, etc. People have always wanted to travel.
Yeah.
For you, and I hope you don't mind if I ask this, it's still thrilling. I'll make it as a statement more than a question.
It
Correct?
is.
Is the question.
I have to honestly say, like a lot of people, I hate dealing with airports.
Sure.
Um,
I get that.
that was, going back, you know, 9/11 made it more miserable for obvious reasons that were necessary. The hijackings back in the 70s is where it all started to, I'm old enough where I remember when you could, all your friends and family could roll up right to the gate with you and see you on the plane as you got on. And so I still remember that, there were also bad old days in airline travel, the fact that people actually smoked on planes, which I can't believe.
I remember that days. I do. I remember they had the little
Um,
ashtray next to the seat, the little, like a little
yes,
thing you'd
the
flip.
little flip down ashtray.
Yeah.
Um, but COVID just, put all of this, the masks and everything else on top of it. And, going through airports, I really dread, I do get what's, I guess, a psychological affliction called airport anxiety. And I get that no matter how much I travel. And I'm not comfortable. And airlines didn't make it any easier by making you pay for your bags, and then everyone wanted to take handbags on, and
That's
so
right.
there's always this scramble to get the overhead space. And I'm really not comfortable in air travel until I'm sitting down on the plane and it's taking off. So I'm fine with the in the airport,
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
That's fine, but it's everything leading up to that part but when I get to a place, I still get a real high off of it. Especially if it's a new place I've never been to before. A couple of the cities in this book I'd never been to before. And I just love, there's nothing I like more. I tell people two things I really, really like about travel. I like being the only person out in a wilderness area, and I like getting dropped into a new city and just wandering aimlessly as I discover it. Those are my two real big thrills in travel, which are polar opposites. One has me in the middle of nowhere, and the other has me with 10 million people.
And it's still you love exploring, discovering. I'll say discovering
Yeah,
things.
yes. Yes, I'm still an explorer. I still like to discover. I don't think that will ever go away. You know, there was a time in my life when I thought it was fading, but I don't think that it does. I mean, I went to some places for this book, like I said, like Tbilisi in the country of Georgia, which I'd never been to before. And I was just kind of blown away by the whole Georgia experience, the Caucasus and the food there and the people and the culture, the architecture, everything about Georgia I really loved. And that was kind of unexpected. But again, it was all new. And anything new like that is just this really, I really dig it.
And again, you will love the book, folks. 100 cities, 5,000 ideas where to go, when to go, what to see, and what to do. A Nat Geo book. So, needless to say, it is a beautiful. The photography, the layout is absolutely
Yeah.
stunning, as all their books are. They do a beautiful job with that. And the information, if you like to travel, or if you just like to look at the pictures and read about the places, is wonderful. You did a wonderful job with this. If you don't mind if I ask
Yes.
Joe Yogerst, the process of, because my vision is you get there, it's like, wow, look at this, look at this. I'm going to go there. I'm going to go there. Uh, but you've got to write stuff down and make notes. How do you
Yeah.
how do you blend? How do you? I better write this down. It's kind of like seeing something and thinking, I got to take it for me. Take a picture. I got to take a picture. I got to get the but I want to look at it too.
Um, it's not easy juggling it. I spent about 10 years of my life trying to take the photos and doing the writing for magazine articles. And I'm a trained writer and a self-trained photographer. And for a writer, I'm a pretty good photographer, but I don't match up to the people who do it full time. And I eventually had to say, put my camera aside and say, really, I'm a writer. I've got to concentrate on getting to be a better writer. Um, and so that's what I really started concentrating on. And I found that my writing did get better, and I got better assignments like National Geographic. Um, so nowadays I take notes, but I usually go back to my room at night after dinner and I write down my thoughts from the day rather than taking them as I go, because I find that, as you suggested, detracts from the experience of actually experiencing the place, the thing, the meal or the architecture, the museum, or the people I'm with. So I wait until the end of the day and then I write down my thoughts.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I'm talking with Joe Yogerst, and we're talking about the new book, 100 Cities, 5,000 Ideas, Where to Go, When to Go, What to See, and What to Do. And I was intrigued by the when to go. Obviously, there's times you want to go somewhere or another, and that uh, I would think a lot of people, and there's so much information on the internet trying to discern what works for
Yeah,
you, what doesn't, where do I find this, where do I, to be able to know someone, to have the information from someone who's been there and does this all the time. You're going to
yeah,
know things and observe things, log things that others aren't going to. If I went to
sure.
wherever, Hanoi, and made notes, it's going to be much different, my travel, than you as an experienced
Hmm.
explorer and traveler, which gives people a
Sure.
real advantage. And by the way, folks, a great gift, whether people are traveling or not, a great
Yes.
gift. And if you buy it for somebody, my suggestion would be buy two, because you're going to get it. You're going to start looking at it. Then you're not going to want to gift it. So you're going to want to keep it. So then you're going to have that dilemma. So in that, again, I know we don't have a wealth of time. What, God, I almost hate to say, Joe Yogerst, one of the highlights would you say for you where that was that? And again, I get that you're always excited, and understandably, was there something like, and you talked about Georgia, the Oceans, and being there. It was like, wow. extra wow because
Um,
of Joe Yogerst.
it's very interesting going back to a city that you haven't been to in a long time. So
Mm,
for this book, I went back to Istanbul for the first time since my backpacker days. Um, when I was there as a backpacker during my college days, it was very much an Asian city and had an Asian feel to it. When I went back for this book earlier this year, it felt much more like a European city. Um, and it had grown up, it had modern suburbs with high-rise buildings. It still had the old historic core, um, but it had changed immeasurably from the first time I had gone there. Like it was almost like going to it for the first time. And I went back to some of the old places I had been to before, the kind of the world landmarks, and but there were so many new places, especially in terms of restaurants and food. I've always liked Turkish food, but
huh.
it was always kind of like street stalls and little cafes, tavernas before. This time, grown up, I had the money to go to, for lack of a better term, fancy restaurants with uplifted Turkish food, which was really amazing. I still like the little places and little street stalls, but it's interesting to be able to try both sides of it. So that was, yeah, going back to cities that you haven't been to in a long time is always interesting for me, just to compare how it was. And that part of it is what my stage in life was and my ability to experience that city on $10 a day or $200 a
Yeah,
day.
makes a big
There's a
difference.
huge difference.
That's right. That's right. I used to hitchhike to New York City uh, regularly when I was, again, 50 years ago, 50 couple of years ago. And it was so much different than staying in a hotel as opposed to the Sloan House YMCA, which was
Yes, yeah,
insane back in the day. But I understand what you're saying. Again, street food as opposed to, and still you like the street food, right? Still,
yeah, yeah.
do you have a favorite Turkish dish
Oh boy,
or what of the
just
favorites?
a meze spread in front of you with lots of little dishes and dips and things, and I would say that's the best. It's I like the meat dishes. The lamb is amazing, but I really like the meze plate and their variations. People know it. It's very similar to Greek food, as you know,
Yeah.
but Greek food, the Greeks are going to hate me for saying this, because it was under the Ottoman Empire for so long, it was heavily influenced by Turkish food. So there's a lot of similarities. So I'm a big lover of Greek cuisine, and it doesn't take much to transfer over to Turkish cuisine, and especially those little dipping sauces and things like that, which are really amazing.
You also have written some fiction, and maybe I can get you back. We can talk more about some of the books that
Sure,
you've
love
written.
love to do
But
that. Yeah.
for this one, again, it's a beautiful, absolutely beautiful book. It's so interesting when you read about some of the places, and I know at my age and different situations that are going, I'm not going to have the opportunity to travel to a lot of these places, but you can sit back and read this book and again look at the pictures, and I don't want to say almost imagine yourself there, but your style of writing, and it's intriguing, and you think, I mean, talk about a bucket list. If somebody wants to make a bucket list, this would be your book. 100 cities, 5,000 ideas, where to go, when to go, what to see, and what to do. National Geographic book author Joe Yogerst is my guest. Can you take a minute and tell us about your website?
Yeah, my website, www.joeyogerst.com. Um, yeah, I have to thank my wife and my daughter, who is a professional web designer, for putting it all
Oh, wow.
together.
That's okay.
She started when she was in high school and then college, and now she's a professional web designer in New York City. So she made a career out of it, and I'm glad she started with me. Um, and it has all of my books on it, but it also has my journalism, um, my newspaper and magazine articles, and my web articles, online pieces, and the various celebrity interviews I've done over the years, and a map that has the 160 or so places I've visited
You've
around the
been.
globe.
I was going to say, Joe, I love that. The places I've been and all the little markers and all the places literally around the world. You're a blast to talk with, and your experiences are wonderful. And I love and highly recommend the book, whether you're traveling or not. If you know somebody that travels, they're going to love the book. But just to look through and get the feel, you really get the feel in the book, 100 Cities, 5,000 Ideas, where to go, when to go, what to see, and what to do. Uh, Available. It's a Nat Geo book. It's available everywhere and everywhere online, and so beautifully done. I love your personality, Joe. I hope we can do this again.
Thank you.
It's a real wonderful book. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Again,
Thanks
folks,
for having me today.
oh, thank you. The book is available everywhere. Again, it's a